Chapter 44. Liberation Day 8 Prask. I've gotten some strange assignments, but this one's an all-new level of why me, Prask snickered as he walked onto the battle bridge of the Key-Rame. Tyrell, Sam and L001. It's good to see you all again. He's called Louis now, Sam corrected, and this is someone whose existence I'm not permitted to acknowledge, he interrupted, referring to Cass. I get why the Lamentics and Lampharians look away. Ganon's more than just an asshole, he's a whole ass. I get that there's a standing order they've been told to follow, Tyrell smirked, but you're stuck with that shit too? What we don't see we're not obliged to report, Prask chuckled. Orders are orders and technicalities are, well, the only thing that keeps the Lamentics vaguely sane. Lamentics don't kill Lamentics, technically. Lamentics are all loyal to the court hierarchy, technically. All Lamentic mating is subject to House Adam approval, technically. You get the point. Cass looked at Somari eagerly. Not yet, Sam said. We still control the gate, Tyrell said. So, it's easy on our side, but getting you past the Aerosha Port Authority will be tricky. I hear you have a history with the Dominion. But with our help that won't be a problem. It won't. Not with the ship I'm fabricating for you. It's a grisly process, but it's almost done. We had to tear apart 2 Xynon bioshipwrecks to make it. The rest is up to Jean. She has her hooks pretty deep in their satellite network. Good, Prask said calmly. Tyrell slid a data chip across the table. It's all there. Jean and I finished making those adjustments to Pinky's special order. Do you need anything else? One of the conveniences of a defender who prefers mail company is that nobody will question the purchase, Prask smirked. Mama Sam? Cass asked. Be patient, Sam said firmly. Did you add the video of all 3 of her children playing? Prask asked. It's in there, Tyrell said. Is there any way you can bring the twins with you? They miss their other mother, Sam asked. Sorry, no, Prask said coldly. Okay, Cass, now you can go, Sam said. Cass ran out of the room. I was never around Lamentic children when I worked with Akia. I'm not sure what to expect with her. She's almost picked up a second language. She's like a little sponge. Are they all like that? Sam asked. What language? Prask asked. The twins' native language. It's a reptilian common derivative that's heavily reliant on body language. They're not really teaching her, but she's picking it up on her own. I couldn't tell you, Prask shrugged. They prevent exposure to other species when they're real young. Well, let me show you around the place, Tyrell said. I'm not permitted to discuss Blight, Prask said cautiously. Blight. Tyrell snickered. You mean that wasn't a predate interview? That's not a thing, Sam laughed. Considering some of the dates I've been on, it should be, Prask laughed. Oh, before you go, we got a delivery from Alliance Arms earlier. Can you make sure that Kali gets it? Sam said. Liberation Day 9. Navari. The Gaffin assignment was a catastrophic failure. A 120-member team of highly trained Special Forces personnel was sent and wiped out in under an hour. They were sent in with a dozen camera drones. Whatever they were facing was as intelligent as it was vicious. The drones were taken out first, but she wasn't sure how. The moment the signal was lost, the slaughter began. She had no doubt these were the same creatures that were responsible for the fall of Aspis. The dying words screamed by the soldiers echoed in the satellite recordings. When Lady Darkseid was shown the Aspis footage, she insisted it wasn't real. Unfortunately, it was. They couldn't merely be banished to some other realm. Whatever they were here to stay. So far, Ketz's lore-imbued blades seemed to be the only thing capable of touching them, and they were few and time-consuming to make. Ojeran fled before the mission was complete. The military has charged him with desertion, but there was more to it than that. Azuri had taken an unscheduled trip through the T-Tarn Gate just before he abandoned his post. Ketza had foreseen Ojeran's death and the outcome of its prevention. He had to die. Azuri knew what was at stake but had bent to her emotional weakness. Lady Darkseid would be blamed if his remains weren't found. After her death, Cletheria would go on rampage. The Midnight Fellowship would fall. Kalmia would reclaim all of their former territories once the fighting was done. Navari opened a point-to-point communication link. Love has become treason. You know what to do, Navari said in an icy tone. I stand watch, ever vigilant until the day they die, Aita said solemnly. Navari closed the connection. I just hope Ketza is wrong this once, Navari whispered to herself. Hey, Jamie, right? Have you seen Kali? Cho asked as she stepped off the elevator wearing an indigo floor-length split-panel dress. Wow, you look great, Jamie gaped. I've been having a hard time reaching her, Cho asked. Do you know where she is? She's helping her date find a place to park, I think. Tell her to reset her comms genes on surveillance duty. I'm going to go mingle. Oh, and Kali has a visitor. Some Udbar guy. They'll need someone to open the door to the roof, Cho said as she started walking out of the lobby. I can't access the top floors, Jamie asked urgently. Can you take care of it? I'll send a message to Bruno. He'll do it, Cho sighed. Kishiru. He stretched out his wing. His black-tipped, white feathers laid across the floor. He adjusted his rifle scope. His training had focused on physical combat, but this wasn't that kind of job. The only proof of completion he'd have to offer was the footage from his gun camera. They'd never even know who'd wiped their names from the clouds. The one-way field would allow the passage of the Mystrium-enhanced AP round and a quick escape if needed. The oxygen mask he wore over his beak would help compensate for the air pressure difference. If he had to escape from the skyscraper, he'd have to spread his wings and enter a controlled dive for a dozen floors or so before taking flight. Once he passed through the field, there was no way back. Praetorian Green would just have to send her people to recover his rifle later. The first stage of the job required monitoring the comings and goings at that little hotel. He was there for almost 4 standard days before shifting to the second directive. He was to report any changes and eliminate any targets as directed. When he'd first accepted the assignment, he was told to note any visitors. Anyone entering or leaving the building was to be added to Planetary Security's valid target list, but that part of the order had been rescinded. He hadn't been told why, but suspected it was due to the volume of unexpected traffic. Open contact Acorn Emerald. Connect, he said softly. What's changed? The green-hair woman asked. I'm seeing rooftop air displacement. It looks like a stealth ship is landing. I'd estimate it's a scout-class vessel, Kishiraku said. That's confirmation enough for me. She thinks she can orchestrate Labarth's death and escape without any consequences. That's not going to happen. Take out anyone approaching that ship, the green-haired woman instructed. It just finished landing, Kishiraku said as he adjusted for wind speed. Nobody's approaching, but there are 2 people disembarking. A male Udbar and a short Lamentic of indeterminate gender. Probably the same one that visited her before. Your new orders are to kill anyone that steps foot on that roof, starting with them, the green-haired woman ordered. If he fired at the Lamentic first, their defender would just get in the way. So they had to die first. He lined up his targets and pulled the trigger twice. With lightning speed and precision, the Udbar drew their weapon as he fired, but didn't make a move to protect the small Lamentic. An instant later, the bullet impacted with the Udbar's blade, which altered the trajectory slightly. The blade shattered and the Udbar went down, but Kishiraku doubted it was a kill shot. The little Lamentic was thrown back several feet after being struck in the center of their chest. White flecks from the side of their face fell onto the roof. As Kishiraku watched their prone form through the scope, their facial structure began reforming itself from a shifting black shadowy miasma, and blood-like droplets of darkened material flowed back toward their prone form. Not good, Kishiraku squawked. Emerald, I've got a possible changeling here. I'm out. You have a job. Finish it, the green-haired woman insisted. Kishiraku closed the connection, grabbed his rifle and abandoned his perch. He hadn't risen in the ranks by blindly following suicidal orders. He knew better than to face a probable changeling without any backup. Bruno. He stood at the roof access door. His drawing tablet had a strange image on it. It was a top-down view of the roof. He didn't understand much about this world's technology or who this unknown sender was, but there were 2 injured people out there, and a message from unknown sender kept flashing on top of the image. Bruno rested his arm on the bar locking the door and waited for the message to change. Unknown sender, go now. Fast. He dropped his tablet as he charged onto the roof, running as fast as he could. He scooped the Udbar into his arms and kicked his left hoof to the side to change course to get the little one. Don't touch her skin. It burns, the Udbar wheezed. He lowered his head until his long curved horns scraped against the rooftop, and lifted her with them as he sprinted back inside, slamming the door shut behind him. Once he was safely back inside, he rolled the child onto the floor. She was holding a fox mask, almost identical to Kali's, against her chest. A chunk of her face looked damaged but seemed to be slowly regenerating. The Udbar was gravely injured and needed immediate medical attention. Thank you, unknown, he said as he repositioned his tablet. I leave you with little girl. If she wakes up, tell Sato, okay? He rushed the Udbar to the elevator. Kali and Trudy walked hand in hand as they exited the parking garage. What's gotten into you today? Trudy smiled. Nothing, Kali said playfully, but I'm open to suggestions. I may have a few, Trudy chuckled, but let's wait until after the vendors are all done showing off their new wares before committing to anything. First date and already asking me to commit, Kali teased. Why not? Trudy laughed. I'm wearing a black pantsuit and you're wearing a white dress. It fits the motif. Kali giggled then sighed. There's that sigh again, Trudy said as she squeezed her hand. Are you going to tell me what's wrong? I'm not a mind reader like you. Nope. My comms are off. No lens, no drama, no hassles, no money exchanged. Just you and me on an actual date. I'm looking forward to being your arm candy at the conference. I don't think I've met a lady who's so eager to be arm candy, Trudy teased. My title may be Lady Darkseid, but I don't know how many ladies spread their legs so freely, Cully snickered. Wait, isn't that just one way to prove it? Trudy laughed. Jamie's a lady, but they'd fail that test, Cully jeered. If they ever decide they want lady bits like me, let me know, Trudy winked. I'm still in the market for an understudy. They're opposed to flirting, Cully frowned. Maybe that's why they're not getting along with your friend Strawberry, Trudy speculated. It could be, but I think it's deeper than that, Cully shrugged, or shallower depending on your perspective. Do you want me to talk to them? Trudy offered. Not if it interferes with our date. Cully smiled. No drama, remember. Cully grinned as she telepathically opened the doors as they approached. I was going to open that, Trudy pouted. I know, Cully giggled. Cho asked me to tell you. Jamie started as they crossed the threshold. Not now, Cully smirked. The elevator door opened and Bruno stepped off carrying a bloodied bar. So much for a drama-free evening, Trudy snickered. The one time I wear white. Press. What happened? She ran to help him off the elevator. I'll get some help, Trudy said, then sprinted out of the room. How about now? Jamie grumbled. Bruno. Was he alone? Cully asked urgently. No, there was a lamentic girl with him. Where is she now? Is she hurt? Cully asked in a panic. Not as bad as him, Bruno reassured her as they carried Prask to the bar area. Trudy ran into the room with a half-dozen people behind her. Cully's tail swept a table clear. But where is she? Cully repeated as they laid his unconscious, bloodied body across the table. Roof exit, Bruno replied. Go, Trudy said. We've got this. Cully refocused her eyes as she sped back into the lobby. All of her instincts screamed out from deep within her. This didn't make sense. She had come to an agreement with Maze. Why this? Why no? The dense cord connecting her to cyanide was still there, stretching to distant stars. She sighed with relief. Whoever that lamentic was, it wasn't her. She pushed the elevator call button. If the shooter was Shivar, things would have ended differently. She stepped on as the door opened. His preferred weapon was a frequency-agile laser sniping rifle, but that's not what hit Prask. Shivar was a null. No Nax could anticipate his actions. This was the worst possible time to not be able to reach anyone. She scolded herself for not getting Cho before heading upstairs. Think then act, think fast, act faster, her master Sadakar's words echoed through her head. She called upon the wind to propel herself down the hallway, opened the door telekinetically and leaped to the top of the stairwell. A startled child screamed fearfully as she landed. With her augmented vision, Cully could see the child had the telltale energy pattern of someone with a knack for dark force, but it looked a bit peculiar. She could see a faint film coating the child's skin. It had similar energy signature too. The Kopi Tamj poison generation ability. Cully instinctively activated her toxin immunity for good measure before attempting to touch the cowering child. Her face looked like it had been shattered and reformed. Sorry if I scared you. Do you need help? Cully asked. Are you hurt? The child was gripping a broken black fox mask up to her chest and was wearing a light brown skirt and dirty off-white sundress. Cully suspected they were a little girl, but had spent too much time in Kaylani space to make any assumptions. Tears streaked down her blackened cheek. I left my face outside, but it's scary out there, they whimpered. It broke into little pieces. You'll be safe with me, Cully grinned while reaching out her hand. By the way, are you a little girl or little boy? Mama Sam and my brothers Yuri and Zika say I'm a girl, she whispered as she looked at Cully's hand fearfully. Her surface thoughts revealed the reason why. It's okay, you won't hurt me, Cully smiled warmly. Didn't your brothers tell you how strong their other mother is? The little girl hesitantly reached out her hand. I won't let anyone hurt you, Cully reassured her as she took her hand and led her onto the roof. What should I call you? Cully asked while standing guard as the girl collected white eggshell-like flakes off the rooftop. Cassie. Cass, the girl said. The cracked section of her face extended from just above her chin to her right cheekbone, next to her right eye. The flecks glided into place as she touched them to her cheek like the uneven pieces in a living puzzle with numerous tiny missing pieces. Cully's combat empathy and instinctive danger sense fired inconsistently, like there was a hungry animal lurking in the brush, but no attack came. She was quietly relieved once they were back inside. Cully walked Cass into the penthouse and encouraged her to make herself at home while she put in her lens and reactivated her comms. She could sense hundreds of questions flashing through the little girl's mind, most of which centered around her tales. She was certainly as inquisitive as she was shy. She thought and spoke in the Lamentic language. "Hey Cass, can you stand behind that partition while I change into my armor?" Cully asked. "I've seen people get dressed before," Cass said in confusion. "Now," Cully said sternly. Cass complied. "That's a nice mask. I have one just like it. It got cracked too. It was for you. I broke it." "I'm sorry," Cass said. "I think that means Shooter broke it," Cully chuckled softly. "You have nothing to apologize for. I think the bad person who tried to shoot you owes us both an apology. Do you know who made it?" An image of a white caiman flashed through her head. "Oh, her name's Kiryu," Cully said. "She made mine too. I want you to keep that one until your face finishes healing, okay?" "Okay," Cass said from the other side of the room petition. "I have to go back downstairs now. It's safe up here. I'll have some food and drink sent up later." "Don't leave this room, okay?" Cully closed the door calmly, then stormed over to the elevator, rode it down about a dozen floors, then hit the stop button. She'd missed over 100 messages, but that would have to wait. She had a few calls of her own to make. The first was a message to thank Kiryu for the mask and let her know it has saved Cass's life. The second would require a great deal of self-control. If she still had access to the knack suppression ring, she would have called from there, but calling from the elevator was a constant reminder not to lose control. The call was answered faster than she expected. "Hello Gao-run," Cully said in a calm, controlled tone. "I just met a little Lamentic hybrid girl with the cutest little claws, 4 pointy little teeth, pointed ears, and bright, milky, iridescent eyes." She took a deep breath, struggling to maintain her composure. "She may not have postural kyphosis as bad as you, but I know what I'm seeing." "You're going to tell me who her mother is and how in the powers this happened," Cully roared. She desperately struggled to contain her rage as the elevator began to shake. "It happened over 3 years ago, prior to your trip to Midguard. The Lamentic woman is not yours. I was given orders which I followed," Gao-run said callously. Cully felt a knot in the pit of her stomach. "Who else knows?" Cully said through bared teeth, then redirected. "Never mind. That's not important." "Who gave the order?" "Phantom Hound," he hissed. "Wait, Lamentic women need to be primed first." "How?" Cully stammered. "She mistook me for her mate. Vorshana saw to that," he said with a sinister gleam in his eyes. Cully disconnected before she could react or say more. She restarted the elevator. Cully looked around in confusion as the elevator door opened onto the second subbasement level. She looked through her messages, hoping to find an explanation. Cass had stowed away in Prask's ship. He'd gated into the system and didn't discover her hiding on the ship until his arrival. The Lamentic War Council convened shortly after the assassination attempt on the child. They were expecting a declaration of war within the hour. Local security had lost control of the defense grid after attempts were made to reposition the attack satellite above the special confinement building. They were attempting to target her hotel. Jean, Tyrell, and Cho were fighting to maintain control of the defense grid. Navari's forces had been taken into custody, and the Lupian task force had been given control of planetary security. This felt like a page out of the DEFCON playbook. Her attempts to contact Maze were fruitless. The woman's contact information had been wiped. There were rumors of temporary control of the Dominion being handed over to Gamaro Inc. In the absence of a statement from Mistress Kaylani, the Dominion was rapidly descending into chaos. As much as Cully wanted Vorshana's head, the consequences of taking it right now could be disastrous. As twisted and corrupt as she may have become, she was still the Praetorian Prefect, the highest-ranking recognizable government official. The timing was too perfect. La Barth's prediction had gone astray, but all the pieces had been slotted firmly into place. It was too clean. Coups were messier than this. She started pacing but halted abruptly and stared at a painting half covered by a drop cloth that stared back at her. Cho must have moved it down here. She was the only other person she could think of that was able to get down here. It was Valho's painting of her cliffside leap of faith at the Nadrok colony site. No. Could it be? Cully whispered to herself as she rushed back to the elevator. She entered the code and pushed the button, but nothing happened. This elevator was the only access point to the second subbasement level. She scoured her messages. Was she being isolated? Why, and was that painting meant as a clue? She took another look at the notice about the Lupian forces supplanting Navari. She didn't know her well enough to identify the slender strand which connected them. The major difficulty with being connected to so many people through the distant nautiloids was isolating a single mind within an ocean of individuals. She'd always viewed the tapestry of life with herself in the center of it all. What would happen if she tried changing her perspective? She had footage of Cyan and Somri meeting Navari at the Wings of Glory presentation. Somewhere between their dense cords should rest a slender cord linking to Navari, which could be verified by searching for further connections to Azuri and Ogeron. She felt a small cluster of knots hidden beneath the grand tapestry. Navari, Cully thought testingly. I'd like to know why you added Lady Darkseid to the valid target list. Navari's thoughts echoed as if they were simultaneously being spoken. The connection was severed swiftly. Navari must have bolstered her defenses. Well, at least she knew why she was stuck down here. She was concerned about everyone upstairs. Vorshana could be up there now trying to reprogram everyone's minds. Cully just couldn't shake the feeling Rukur was behind all of this. Why him, why now? She hadn't heard anything about him until being mentioned by Shavar. Labarth passed on one of his cursed eyes to Maze. Without knowing what he knew or what she might have seen. Watch me. No strings, Cully said to herself. Cully smiled as her tails slowly traced invisible patterns on the floor around her. Ervivas Iei Jaguvas, Cully roared as she plummeted downward, her palms striking the ground on either side of her. Raw power flowed around her, scorching the ancient Johnny sigil into the floor. Her mastery over the elemental forces was fully activated for the first time since leaving Midguard. She rested her hand against the wall and could feel the location of everyone throughout the building. Where their feet touched the floor, the location of their minds, the mental states of people nearby. She searched for pressure on a surface without a mental imprint and found it quickly on the 14th floor. Cully sighed with relief as she stroked her communicator. Cho must have had forewarning of the sudden security change. Are you safe? Cully asked with her thought-to-text interface. Instead of answering directly, a hotel schematic appeared on her optical display. The security forces were breaching doors rapidly as they continued up the stairwell towards Strawberry's position. They'd already reached the 12th floor. The guests downstairs would have to wait. Prask was injured, but if Cyanide could trust him to take care of himself, so would she. Bruno was a new high priest. Cully didn't know what he was truly capable of but had faith in his protective instincts. Trudy had a lot of friends she could count on. Jamie. Well, they wouldn't be much use to a hostile force. Strawberry was extremely important to her, and she could pick her up on the way to ensuring the child's safety. A two-pronged attack would keep the ground-level forces busy while she cleared the elevator. She felt the ground in front of the hotel, formed it into vaguely humanoid shapes, and commanded her puppets to march toward the front windows. Golemites were sturdy but mindless, like an army of earthen dolls, making them a good distraction. She'd have to smooth out the street later. The top of the elevator pulled apart as she stepped back inside. The wind pulled her upward faster and faster as her tails propelled her up the shaft. Open the door to 12, Cully transmitted to Strawberry with thought to text. Lightning tore up the shaft, electrocuting the Lupian foolish enough to look downward. An aura of flame erupted around her, vaporizing their rounds as they opened fire. She heard yelling echoing from the stairwell. There were only a few personnel in the hallway and more in the stairwell. As she sped down the hallway, the barrels of weapons turned to quickly melting slag, and the guards' fur and flesh erupted in whirlwinds of flame. The staircase quivered beneath their feet as she drew near. Her feet came to rest at the entrance to the staircase, as it began to crumple like foil below. I'll fix it later. I'm removing stair access from the 10th to 14th floor, Cully thought through her communicator. Would you mind unlocking this door for me? Cully monitored the progress of her Golemites while she waited. The Lupian task force should be able to make quick work of them, but the windows would need to be replaced. Basic projectile weapons and batons weren't any real threat to her. She felt almost bad for the Lupian guards. They didn't even have knacks. She wondered if they knew they were just an expendable inconvenience. Was there more to the siege? Surely they didn't think such a pitiful task force could stop her, not after what she did on the 30th floor of Index Heights. Why would they? Cully silently cursed herself for giving a gal-cred apology to the families of all the guards she had slaughtered there. It hadn't occurred to her at the time just how far people were willing to go for the chance to earn between 4 and 5 years' pay posthumously. Sato opened the door slowly and nervously said, "Hi. Don't look down," Cully cautioned. "Can you access the hotel speakers and let those idiot guards know Lady Darkseid won't be offering a death benefit today? It's a hotel. We're not set up for that," Cho giggled, "but we have a receptionist." Jamie dealing with a bunch of angry Lupians. "No," Cully snickered. "I'll have to deal with it later." "Are you ready to go?" Cully asked. "Go where?" Cho asked nervously. "Satellite hunting," Cully grinned. "It's nice to have 3 cyberpaths on my side, but I'd hate to think what would happen if you lose control of it and you need to sleep eventually," Cully said as she took Cho by the hand and started leading her to the roof. "Jean's busy dealing with Lamentic stuff now. I've got the firing subroutine stuck in a loop right now," Cho blushed. "Senpai Tyrell is fighting off cyber attacks while I keep the scripts looping. For now, that's the best we can do." No, it's not, Cully teased. Not when there's a stealth ship parked on the roof. But I've never flown a ship before, Cho objected. I know how to take off and land, Cully grinned. The rest is just computer stuff. I've faith in you. Strawberry blushed brightly. Wouldn't you rather get help from Senpai? No. You said he's busy fighting. I've got the one I want. Right here, Cully hugged her with one of her tails as emphasis. Honestly, she'd feel a lot safer if Tyrell was backing her up, but he was halfway across the galaxy at the other end of a lightwave transmitter microgate. She trusted her Strawberry but trusted his experience more. Cully asked Cho to wait at the door as she ran inside the penthouse to grab a few things. She fastened her sheath belt around her waist and took her mask out of the drawer. Cass, how's your face doing? Cully said in the Lamentic language. Regenerating well? What? Cho asked. I'm talking to the little girl hiding behind the mirror. Cully snickered in Terran Common, then repeated it in the Lamentic language. You're no fun. I was trying to hide, Cass complained. Cass peeked out from behind the mirror. Cho winced but recovered quickly. Cass, trade masks with me, Cully smiled warmly as she spoke in her native language. You can wear this one until your Arabokinesis is done healing your cheek. Why what? It's how you're healing yourself. That's all that's important, Cully reassured her. They exchanged masks. Cully waved goodbye to Cass and left, closing the door behind her. What's her story? Cho asked as they walked up the stairs to the roof. She rode here with Prask. Cully said, noticed the blank expression on her face, then added, the Udbar who got shot earlier. Is that what happened to her face? Well, I mean, you said it was regenerating. Was she hit? No, never mind, I'm being stupid. They paused as they reached the door at the top of the stairs. It looks like she was carrying this, Cully said while handing her the mask. The nose is cracked, Strawberry said in surprise. That's what happens when it's hit hard enough, Cully said as she ran her thumb along the point of impact. I'm just glad she was holding it. Is it safe to go out there? Strawberry asked nervously. How much longer do you have until you need to restart that thing that's keeping us all from being shot from orbit? Cully snickered. Good point, Strawberry smiled meekly. We need to get on that stealth ship, Cully said as she looked down at the image on Bruno's tablet. It's hidden out there somewhere. Any ideas? I can feel it, but I'll have to ask Tyrell for an access code. They got it, Strawberry smiled. Okay, what's next? What? That's it? But I thought you said. Cully looked at Strawberry dumbfounded. It's only a 32-character access code, Cho shrugged. I haven't opened the door or anything yet. I know his base code formatting is sloppy, but he is my senpai. I'm used to it. Okay, I guess I'll follow you to the ship, seeing as you're the one who knows where it's parked. Can you find the door? Cully asked. But what if the guy with the gun is still out there? Strawberry sounded nervous. I'll handle that. Just get me on that ship, Cully said. Cully pushed the door open. Their walk to the parked ship was uneventful, but it made her uneasy knowing there was an attack satellite overhead, eternally waiting to strike. After Cully familiarized herself with the controls, they launched the ship. Strawberry did cyberpath stuff while they headed to the satellite. She tried to explain what she was doing, but Cully's glassy-eyed nod discouraged further discussion. Cully didn't understand and didn't need to. With full elemental mastery, she could nullify or redirect many different attack types, but that required a fundamental understanding of them. Solids, liquids, and gases weren't difficult to conceptualize. The wave-particle duality of light was another matter entirely. Plasma exhibited traits of the three other states, which made it hard to manage. The so-called mastery ability just endowed her the capability to manipulate the fundamental forces, not the knowledge or experience to effectively utilize them. Her master, Sadakar, could use gravitational forces to redirect other forces, but Cully failed to grasp how. Her lack of understanding and experience limited her, and this was no time for experimentation. Cully sat at the helm of the Mongoose while Strawberry stared at lines of code speeding by. On a command console, Cully started her ascent. Hey, that's up. Can you bring it down a little? Strawberry asked. Sure, Cully said as she brought the ship back down a few feet. I've got ascent and descent. Now I need all four primary directions. Right, left, forward, and back, Strawberry said. Cully maneuvered as instructed. Can you try it again without accelerating? Strawberry asked. Okay, Cully set the ship to hover and directed the ship until receiving confirmation from Strawberry. Okay, I think I've got it, Strawberry smiled merrily. The command structure's almost identical to the scripts Tyrell uses. I can try taking over once you exit the atmosphere. It's really that easy, Cully said. Just keep an eye on the controls, Strawberry said while tapping the side of her head. Just in case I make a mistake formatting a command. Punctuation matters. I will, Kali said as she adjusted the nose angle and exited the atmosphere. Just let me know when you want to take over and I'll make room at the helm, Kali said. Do you think there's room in that chair for two? Strawberry said playfully. Not with the harness, Kali said as she tugged on one of the shoulder straps. But we've got artificial gravity and I have 3 tails. Just sit in my lap. Okay, Strawberry grinned as she flounced over to her and sat across her lap with her legs on one side. The controls are over here, Kali smirked. No, the controls are in my head, Strawberry giggled. Brat, Kali snickered. We need to get closer to the satellite to access its higher functions. All I've been able to do so far is keep it in diagnostic mode. The only access path was through the building you were being kept in when I first met you. The closest thing the orbital cannon has to a propulsion system are thrusters for maintaining its orbit. I can't activate them through there, so whoever moved it over the hotel either overrode the safety protocols to change its orbit, or gave it a push, Strawberry considered while Kali wrapped her brown tails around her. Can't we just give it a nudge so it burns up in the atmosphere? Kali asked. Yeah, but the ship would become fully visible if we did, Strawberry said. That's why I'm trying to get closer. I want to get a feel for how it's put together. Kali looked down at the sensors but didn't comment. They were already moving closer. It has pretty aggressive countermeasures, Strawberry pouted. I found a major vulnerability, but I would have to bypass at least a dozen voltage regulators before the software countermeasures fry my brain. All we'd have to do is short out one board, but I can't get to it. Where is it? Kali grinned. I can do it. How? Strawberry asked. Just point the airlock toward it and tell me where to zap, Kali said as she spread the fingers of her right hand and passed small arcs of electricity from one fingertip to the next. Are there any spare suits on board? Strawberry asked nervously. Does it matter? As long as I exhale before the door opens I'll be fine, Kali balked. There's no temperature in space, but exposure to a vacuum causes the water to vaporize under the skin, causing bruising and tissue swelling. Then there's the likelihood of air bubbles forming in the blood. Strawberry said uneasily. Do you just know all this? Kali asked. When I first got stuck here I looked into it, then decided not to jump a freighter, Strawberry admitted. Did you know most freight companies only shield their cargo bays while going through jump space if they have live cargo? A lot of them disable them in real space to cut fuel costs when they're carrying non-perishables. No, Kali snickered. Why would I? Strawberry shrugged. I've got mystrionics. I'll just set up a telekinetic field to keep the vacuum out, Kali shrugged. Can I load a dynamic overlay shell so I can show you where to target? Strawberry asked while resting her fingertips on Kali's pendant. You're lucky I trust you, Kali teased. It's already loaded, isn't it? It's not active yet, Strawberry objected. I still have to configure it. I love you, Kali chuckled softly. What? Strawberry said with a start. Not like my Tejmare, Kali blushed, but yeah, you're important to me. What? Do you think I'd be willing to share Ojeran with just anyone? I'm a telepath. I know he took you on a date, knew where he took you and decided not to interrupt you too. I think he told me to prevent another murder spree. But I never brought it up because that was your time. This whole love thing is such a messy concept. I think I'm finally starting to understand it. It's basically just a synonym for value. I'm starting to think I experience emotion more like a lamentic than a Terran. I've given this a lot of thought since you first said it to me. Sorry it took so long to reciprocate. Strawberry's bottom lip was quivering. Do I have it wrong? Kali asked sheepishly. Way to kill the moment, Strawberry giggled. Is that new software ready yet? Kali asked. You can't just drop that on me and expect me to think straight. Strawberry blushed brightly. I'll do it now. How does it work? Kali asked as the viewable image on her lens shifted, obscuring the countdown that she'd grown accustomed to ignoring. It's just a doodle overlay. Let go of me and I'll show you. Kali slid her twin tails into the pockets in the legs of her armor, stood up, slid her back tail under its skirt, and pushed it against her legs until it sealed in place. When she looked back up at Strawberry, it looked like she'd drawn a smiley face over her actual face, which moved with her head. I can do other things too, Strawberry said as she erased the line drawing and replaced it with a three-dimensional kitty mask with a bow on it like she'd been wearing the first night they'd met. I could load maps and stuff like that with a license copy, but this is just the free version. This is all we need. I can use this to draw a target on the satellite so you know where to hit it. Just ask Tyrell to bill it to one of the accounts he manages for me, Kali shrugged. No, Strawberry said adamantly. He and Jean both use a different software suite and I don't want to start another argument. I like this one. If you can pay for it, I'll reimburse you as soon as we can access an ID chip reader. Kali sighed. Okay, Cho smiled. Well, I've got a hot date with a satellite, Kali said as she headed to the inner airlock door. I'd feel better if you were wearing a helmet, Strawberry grumbled. My armor will protect me from exposure. I'll double up on the field if you'll stop mothering me. Then again, the only frame of reference I have for mothers were Flair and Volk. They were Kayla's mothers, not mine, Kali mused. Who? Strawberry asked. Never mind, Kali snickered. It's not important. You never talk about your parents, Strawberry commented. Sometime I'll introduce you to the tube I was cloned in, Kali laughed as she opened the door. She stepped into the airlock. Let me know when you're ready for me to open the outer door, a lusty male-sounding voice spoke in her head. She reflexively reached to silence the mind they came from but couldn't find it. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you, Strawberry spoke aloud while the voice in Kali's head echoed her words. Sound doesn't travel well in space. There are just not enough molecules to vibrate. Text-to-thought works both ways, what do you think? Strawberry asked. Kali didn't feel the need to ask Strawberry what she was looking up when she learned that. I hate it. Just use your real voice, Kali grumbled. I can't. I have to pick from a list of presets, Strawberry shrugged. And your go-to was sleazy guy, Kali balked. There are only 3 choices for Terran voices. The woman's voice sounds ditzy, and the androgynous one sounds really robotic, Strawberry objected. I think I'd rather talk to a kitchen appliance, Kali snickered. Fine, a genderless voice said in her head while Strawberry echoed the word aloud. Kali closed the inner door and started erecting her telekinetic fields. I'll let you know when I'm ready for the other door, Kali thought through the interface. Kali thought back to her trip inside the shell of a nautiloid. It was able to create an atmospheric bubble within its shell. Her Elderoni eyes had revealed it had hazy greenish energy signature, indicating it was a mystrionics-based ability. But there was another color present, one her brain couldn't fully process. It had reminded her of the rainbow sheen of a soap bubble, but she intuitively knew that was wrong. It looked like a bubble, so she'd associated it with soap, but it was closer to a cell membrane. She restructured the field, trying to replicate the feel of the vacuum-defying bubble within the weaver's shell, while strengthening the psionic field just within the outer hatch as a buffer between the bubble and the vacuum of space. With any luck, the atmospheric bubble would withstand the force differential even if the other field collapsed. Kali exhaled, pushing all the air out of her lungs as a precaution. Ready, Kali thought. Her psionic field and the bubble both held, much to her surprise. She could breathe normally now if she wanted but wasn't willing to take any chances. She decided to only inhale when absolutely necessary and exhale immediately. The satellite consisted of a set of thrusters attached to 4 fixed cannons. The cannons each contained a single independent power core. A Trillium reserve tank was connected to directional thrusters. Using her new optical interface, Strawberry had marked a small junction panel with a flexible metal conduit leading to each cannon. What happens if I blow up the fuel tank? Kali thought as she watched the flow of energy passing through it. Don't do that, Strawberry's simulated voice said. We want it to look like hardware failure, not sabotage. This way is better. Kali rested her fingertips against her telekinetic field and tugged at the electric current flowing through the junction until it ceased. You got it, Strawberry confirmed. You can come back in now. Not yet, Kali thought insistently. I want to make sure they don't have repair drones like at the array, and I want to experiment a little while I'm out here. I've never tried using my knack like this before. Kali blew all the air out of her lungs and dropped her psionic field. The bubble held. Inhaled testingly, then exhaled. The air was a little stale but breathable. If she wanted to sustain this, she'd need to generate more. The bubble started expanding as she created more. She stopped immediately and used her mystrionics to purify the air. The air tasted less stale. The sphere quivered slightly but didn't change size. So much for needing a helmet, Kali mused as she cautiously changed the bubble's size and position. She wondered if the Black Church had devised something similar. If they had, Sam would probably know. Hey, can you do me a favor? Strawberry said electronically. Can you see the lesser moon from there? Either I just had a sensor ghost or there's a huge stealth ship hiding in the penumbra. I'd like visual confirmation. Where is it? Kali asked. Just trace the planet's shadow on the moon. Strawberry began, but Kali had already spotted the energy flowing around it. Get me to that ship, Kali thought urgently. I can't. It was just a blip on sensors, there's nothing there now. Oh, it's there all right. Just let me guide you to it. But the hotel, Strawberry transmitted. They're not getting away again. I must stop them, Kali insisted. Who are they? Strawberry asked. Send a message to Tyrell. Tell him we've spotted that ghost ship he's been looking for. He'll let you know the details, Cully thought. Cully grinned. She finally had her chance to ensure the weapon that devastated the Nadrock refugee colony would never be used again.